Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Hey, I'm Casey Cott. Welcome to the Theater Podcast with Alan Seals.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to an all-new episode of the Theater Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Seals, and this is intimate personal conversations with the industry's biggest names. Our guest is currently Christian in Moulin Rouge on Broadway, none other than Casey Cott, who of course may be best known for his role in Riverdale. Just a quick disclaimer that as a one-man band, as I am, sometimes technical glitches happen because I forget to do one thing or the other, and I actually forgot to select the proper input for this recording on my microphone, so it's not quite as good as it normally is, but I repaired it as best I could. So apologies if the audio is a little bit down on my end. Casey's story of actually auditioning for and starting Riverdale is quite the whirlwind of just being in the right place at the right time, and within 24 hours of auditioning, he's already across the country at a table read for execs. It's kind of nuts. And he'll tell the story, but everyone in his family loves the arts. Father was an actual Top Gun, but had this huge love of music. And it's just this kind of perfect storm of how everything came together. And he fell into these opportunities that he grabbed onto. Make sure to tag me on your socials and leave a rating and review wherever you are listening. And now everybody please enjoy this episode with Casey Cott.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
Today's guest may be best known for his role as Kevin Keller in the long-running CW series Riverdale. Other TV film credits include Asking for It, All the Little Things We Kill, Law & Order SVU, Katie Keene, Instinct, and some theater credits include The Who's Tommy at the Kennedy Center, and now his Broadway debut as Christian in Moulin Rouge the Musical. Casey Cott, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Hey, thank you. I wish that would happen every morning before I wake up when I get out of bed, you know?
Today's guest may be best known for waking up and rolling out on the right side of the bed.
There we go.
He's going to step into the shower. Other credits include washing his feet, armpits, and shampooing his hair.
And a big old mug of coffee.
And a big old mug of coffee and dealing with probably poopy diapers.
Exactly. Exactly.
Of your babies, not your own.
Well,
gosh. Okay. Well, congratulations. I guess that's a great place to start because you have a 2-month-old.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely the number one thing. Thank you. It's the best. It's the best.
That's probably the best dad answer you can give me is it's early in the morning and you're saying I haven't woken up yet.
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids. Mine are in 2nd and 3rd grade now.
Oh, amazing.
And mine when they were both born, I was fortunate enough to be able to take solid time off and not have any job more or less and just concentrate on the kids. And now you've got 8 shows a week you have to maintain as a very important role of Christian.
You know, it's funny. My brother had his first while he was doing Bandstand on Broadway, and I believe they opened on a Thursday maybe, and then the baby was born that Sunday. So.
I remember that.
So in my head I was like, oh, he did that, I can do that, you know. And then Derek Klena, who was Christian before me, had a baby a year ago while he was doing the role, and I was like, oh, Derek did it, I can do it. Corey at one point was like, you're gonna be really tired, like just, you know. And
Corey Cott, your brother.
Corey Cott, my brother. Yeah. So there's really no prep. There's really no prep for being on Broadway or having a child. So I thought, what if we just combine them? and
the two hardest things you could think of, do them at the same time.
Right. But luckily, we've had the perfect, I swear, he's like this dream baby. My wife is, she's not working right now, which is perfect for the situation. And honestly, the lack of sleep is pretty, tough, but the schedule with a newborn actually works in a lot of ways. Because the one show days I'm gone from 5:30 to 10, and then I stay up and do the late feeding, and then I can sleep. It's something we'll always remember. Like, I cannot believe we did that.
And they're coming into the you said 2 months old, right? He's coming
Yeah,
into that third month now when like that third month, they just start to open up and become real people and like
yeah,
smiling and
yeah.
having like
He's
actual little baby attitudes.
totally. He's just started smiling, which is like changes your world in the craziest
Oh,
way. You're like, what the
totally.
heck, dude? He's doing all kinds of crazy stuff now. He's just starting to, you know, communicate in the very minuscule ways of like smiling or he'll like grab your hand or he likes little stimulation, like these little toys and colors and lights and stuff. But it's awesome. They're actually away this week, my wife and the baby, which I thought I was gonna be like, this is amazing. I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna like go to the village and get coffee. No, I'm I'm like FaceTiming her every 2 seconds, just sitting in the apartment, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for them to come back.
Well, I could sit here and talk about newborn babies all day, but
Yeah.
this is
I
the theater
get you
podcast,
get
not
now
the newborn baby podcast.
you understand this now. I Once you have a newborn in your past, like the first couple weeks are really crazy because you just don't know what you're doing. But although
Hmm.
I would say the first couple days, then you kind of figure it out. But I get why people keep having kids now because I'm already sad that he's not going to be like this forever. And
I
you're like,
know.
I could just do it again, and then we'll have a newborn. It's just such a crazy phase. But that being said, we're gonna stick with one for the time being.
Mine are 20 months apart because we wanted the original plan was three. We wanted to do back to back to back, and then we had number one, and Logan was an easy baby, like sleeping through the night a long time and easier, I guess, than some. And we're like, this is no problem. Can't wait for number two. Two came out, and two was still a good baby, but we're like, it's not double the work, it's like four times the work
Right.
because especially when they're that close. So we're like, we're out. We're tapping out. That's
Yeah.
it. We're done with two.
Yeah. We're aiming for two. Who knows? Who the heck knows? Like, if you told me a year ago I'd be on Broadway with a baby, I would have told you were nuts. So here we are.
Well, okay, speaking of babies then. So little Casey, you're one of three, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so other brother Corey, who is
Hmm.
also a Broadway person, you're Casey, and then who's the younger brother, sister?
Sister. My sister's a year and 3 days younger than me.
Well, so
And
yours are all back to back to back
we're back.
too.
Yeah.
I mean your parents, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And she's awesome. She works for iHeartRadio. And her husband he's a freaking awesome dude. He's a drummer and he works for a company that manages touring acts like Taylor Swift or the Rolling Stones. And yeah, they're a super cool couple.
Oh, that's so cool. So
Yeah.
then what got the three of you into performing arts then? I mean, because I was reading like your dad is or was an investment manager and former Air Force fighter pilot?
Yeah, my dad is an actual Top Gun. He has
No
three Top
kidding.
Guns. Yeah. And then when I was born, he left the military and now he's in finance. But he's a very creative guy. Loves music, like deep, deep, deep seated love for music. I think my mom always was a bit of a theater fan. In terms of like any mom would like musicals kind of thing. Not any mom, but she did like for instance, she had the Les Mis CD. But Corey was into it since he was a young kid. He was kind of the star kid like growing up, and I wasn't really into it. But my sister was a dancer. I don't really know how he caught the bug. I think he was always kind of into it. And then as he got into high school, he was doing the community theater and school shows and all that. And then he started to get really, really good, like really, really, there's that weird time in high school when some people just all of a sudden start sounding not like high schoolers. And so then he went to,
Puberty will go either way for some
right,
people.
exactly.
Especially
Um,
especially boys, yeah.
we had this really talented little community. I mean, we grew up with Ben Fankhauser and Max Chernin and Chris McCarroll and all these crazy random Cleveland, Alex Wise, Jordan Brown, all these crazy Cleveland actors. And so he was kind of in that community. And I joined super late. In high school, we were doing Oklahoma and Corey was a senior. My sister was a freshman. I was a sophomore. And my mom really wanted me to be in it. So she kind of bribed me with $50. And I was like, all right.
That's a literal bribe, not a
Yeah,
kind of
she
bribe.
didn't
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
she
good.
she bribed me. it was my first paid gig. And then I just
Arguably, yes.
you know any theater person, you do that show and you're like, I don't know what, I just like want to be around these people and do that. I just really enjoy this, you know. And then the next year we did Guys and Dolls, and I got Sky somehow. I don't know. And then it like I was like, oh, I like want to do this. I like really want to do this.
So did she have to convince you to do Guys and Dolls, or after
No.
Oklahoma you were like, oh, okay, cool, this is something I can get into?
After Oklahoma, I was like, I'm gonna audition for this again, and then I got a call back, and the music director was actually a choir teacher at a different high school at the time, and I think she was like, I think there's like something in there maybe, and so I went and had a voice lesson with her, and I ended up doing some voice lessons with her, and then she kind of opened me up, and I was like, oh, I think if I'm like confident, this is what I'm struggling with right now on Broadway. If I'm confident here, I can do this. And so I went in to the callback, and I got called back for like Nicely Nicely or something. And then they were like, you should audition for Sky. And then I did Sky. And then actually at that show, I broke my ankle ice skating with all my friends, as high schoolers do, and then did the whole show in a walking boot, kind of like limping around the stage. And then after that, we had this really cool performing arts high school for half the day at our high school. It was kind of like a magnet program. So people from other high schools would come, and we had this really cool acting teacher. So I told my parents before my senior year of high school I wanted to audition at schools, and they were like, here we go again. Because Corey this time was now entering his junior. When I was a freshman in college, Corey was a junior. They were like, here we go, this whole audition nonsense. For those who don't know, the auditioning for college process is insane, but I worked really hard, and then I ended up jumping around schools a little bit, but ended up at Carnegie Mellon and did 4 years there. And then my last semester of senior year, I booked the Riverdale pilot. Yeah, I don't know what the original question is, but that's my life story.
Well, I think what originally got you into performing.
Yeah.
And so you were bribed for Oklahoma. Then you were like, okay, I can do this, Guys and Dolls. At some point, there had to have been a switch in your mind, or like you're saying, you had to find the confidence, but there had to be something where you said, oh, I don't want to do what I thought I wanted to do. Now I'm going to do this. Because like you said, auditioning for college it's more than a chore. It's a full-time job almost to get yourself ready for college auditions.
I think I didn't have a passion prior to finding acting outside of sports, and I'm a terrible athlete. So those things didn't mesh well. So I thought, oh, what about, sports journalism? Being a sports broadcaster. That's something I would really like to do. But then I found acting, and I think I've been the most fortunate actor. I seem to stumble into things and people that continuously just believe in me and really kind of challenge me. And that's kind of what happened at that performing arts high school. The main teacher there, Tom, was always challenging me and always pushing me. And in doing that, all of a sudden, before I auditioned for colleges, I had done, a new musical in our town that someone had written. I did Guys and Dolls. I did Music Man. We did a Chekhov play. We did the Three Sisters. We did like all this random stuff. And all of a sudden, in 2 years, I had this wealth of experience for a high school kid. To me, to be able to experience that much in a year and a half or 2 years in high school is so cool that we had those kind of opportunities, So I think it kind of clicked kind of after Guys and Dolls, and wanted to do that former. I could just tell I wanted to try. I just wanted to try, It was like the first thing that I felt like I might be good at, and I also really like it, and I want to figure it out, whatever that is.
That's really cool. And so you would have gone probably to sports broadcasting or sports journalism had you not followed this path. That's very different paths. But my original plan in high school, I took 3 years of Japanese in high school, and I was always into like computers and programming and stuff. And I always said I'm either going to be an actor or move to Japan and develop AI. Neither of which happened. Well, actually, the acting happened regionally, professionally for a while. But
what if you develop a play about Japanese AI here? Because I would go see that. I would definitely go see that, or like a pilot. That sounds amazing.
All right, I'm going to develop I'm going to develop a radio play, a podcast radio play about Japanese AI, and you've got to be in it. I'm
I'm
hoping
in.
to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me know.
Either that or vampires. Everybody's into vampires.
Vampires
What
are
if it's a
everywhere.
vampire AI? What if it's an AI that turns into a vampire?
I'm reluctant to agree to that yet, but we can.
I'm optioning.
But the
I'm putting on
original
hold for
idea,
that.
yeah.
Okay. So then Riverdale, we can dive into this. Thankfully, because the SAG strike's over. Praise SAG. So Riverdale, that has to have been such a switch as well in terms of like changing your career trajectory, changing like your fame, notoriety. I guess taking in your parents' eyes too, if they're like, oh, here we go again. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm sure all of a sudden happen when you're not well known or not on something that's popular beforehand.
Kind of what happened was Corey. So at this point, I'm a senior in college. Corey's done Newsies and Gigi, and I think he had done Bandstand at Paper Mill. So he's kind of laid out this dream Broadway trajectory where he got Newsies right out of school. And it just happened that Jeremy, had left very quickly after he joined, and he took over right away. And so it was this, really interesting trajectory. And in my eyes, that was the most successful move from college to the industry that I had seen. And so I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to New York, and I'm going to try to get a play or a musical. And that's just what I want to do. TV and film wasn't super on my radar. Well, I shouldn't say that. It was. I was auditioning for lots of TV, lots of pilots and movies, but I had never been on a set, really. That wasn't like a commercial or something. So I was in New York City for our senior showcase, and they were in a pickle to cast my character on Riverdale. And so I auditioned and booked it that night. No callback.
Wow.
And flew to Vancouver the next morning.
No kidding.
And had a table read that day. Like, it was nuts. Actually, what really happened was I was in New York. I didn't have my passport, so I almost didn't get the job. But my agents convinced them that I would fly back to Pittsburgh to get my passport, and then would fly me from Pittsburgh to Vancouver. So I took like 3 or 4 flights that day, and then got to Vancouver, and then went to bed because I got in at like 10, and then we had a table read the next morning, which is intense. Like, you're at this huge table, and it's like the whole cast is there. All the team is there, and then, Warner Brothers and the CW are on TVs in LA watching, and like you can get canned from that reading. Like, it's kind of intense. But before I met with the director and the writer, and they were like, "Hey, this reading is going to be semi-theatrical. Like, just make sure you're reaching the back of the room." And I was like, I just did like 4 years of college acting. Like, that's the one thing I think I know how to do. But it was awesome. And then we filmed this pilot, and it was crazy. And, we did the full first season, and it aired on TV, and it was, I remember we were just really hoping we'd get another season, and then it went to Netflix, and then it was like, boom, out of nowhere, just chaos, chaos.
It's so funny how that happens. And so I want to talk about that for a second, actually, because I'm very curious, being on the inside and being the recipient of the Netflix success, what you feel about it, because being on a network, being restricted to one channel that is in competition with every other channel, and I'm not saying the streaming services aren't, but there's a gateway you have to get through to watch it on the CW. You have to have cable, right? For the most part. But then streaming service, you can get on any device anywhere in the world, more or less, with geographical restrictions aside. But there's so many shows that Manifest being one of them, Suits now, that I'm binging like crazy. I legitimately remember I watched Riverdale myself years ago when it came to Netflix too, because I was like, oh, what's this thing that everyone's watching? Because it gives you the trending, it gives you what's active. So are you have enough experience, or have you talked with people who are maybe in their 40s, 50s, 60s or whatever, who have seen the transition from, oh, I need a network show to, oh, I need a streaming show? Because now you see these A-list Academy Award-winning actors doing all these streaming service movies that I wouldn't have thought they'd even give the time to 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
So the most important way to have this conversation is to identify how quickly technology grows in comparison to the field that we're in. So I always like to say you have to realize the first season of Riverdale was shot when Obama was still president. That's how long ago it was.
Right.
There was Netflix and HBO at the time. Disney Plus wasn't a thing yet, I don't think. I think Hulu was there, but it was kind of like, so we
Was
went through this.
yeah, it was not good at that point. Yeah.
So at that point, like chucking on Netflix for a show like Riverdale was a very seamless thing. Now there was a CW app at one point in there. I think that's still there. Then now Warner Brothers has its own app because they're a part of Max, which at one point was HBO and then HBO Max. Now it's Max. In a way, the studios all have ownership of their own streaming service now, which eventually is everything just going to be like cable streamers?
I don't know. I mean, because
Yeah.
what did they just announce? That Disney is buying Comcast out of primary share ownership of Hulu. So now
Hmm.
Disney's going to own Hulu. I like primary share. I think it's
Well,
something like that.
I think Disney already does own primary shares of Hulu, but now they're just buying out Comcast shares, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see like what one day, what if Netflix and Disney are like, this would be better if we're not at war together. I foresee things like that happening. It's kind of like what's happening with like agencies after COVID. A lot of them, the smaller ones combine or all get kind of joined into the bigger ones, and then eventually, you're like, do we just have like two big agencies, or are we going to kind of dissect? I'm not super smart in those fields. I just kind of observe it. I do know that being on a show that all of a sudden overnight went to Netflix and was like boom, it was crazy. It's crazy. And I'm watching Suits on Netflix now, and I never would have watched it. And I think it's
Yeah.
awesome that these shows get this second life. And it's it's an interesting time, but it's the golden era of TV. There's so much content. There's not as much as there was 5 years ago, but there's just so much content, and it's being digested at record rates. So I think it's, as an avid watcher of series, I think it's really cool. I think sometimes when you're in it, it's a bit nuts, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Hang on, everybody. We're just going to take a quick break. All right, now we're back.
Cable needs to adapt, and I've said this for years. As soon as Netflix came out, I was like, "This is it. This is where we're going." And even when it was just DVD services, right? I don't know if you remember ever had
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah.
It was just DVD, but I sort of equate this to the way that esports operates, and from a business standpoint, because you have the company that makes the video game, like Epic makes Fortnite, right? So there's Epic puts on, they make the game, they make the tournaments, then they make the competitions. Like they own the end-to-end process.
Right.
So they control every aspect of it, and they're not paying out to other, other than the venues of which they're holding the competitions in, right? Yeah, the way that esports, how lucrative esports is compared to something like NBA or NFL or something, where you have all these competing services with a whole organization that's trying to I don't know, you see what I mean? I'm not explaining this well.
No,
but,
it's
yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. I think selfishly, as an actor, I just love how much content's out there, because you just look at the TV spectrum right now and you're like, there's everything from
Mhm.
Game of Thrones to Riverdale to White Lotus to morning show. It's like every service has a show that's a banger, and I'm like, I'm in. So I hope in whatever happens in the future they keep creating all this great content, because I think people will keep digesting it, and it's great. It's great for actors.
Mhm.
Look at Schmigadoon.
Well,
Look at
right?
all these amazing Broadway people. Look at Only Murders in the Building, like, and being in the Broadway scene now, seeing these freaking insane talented actors up on a TV is awesome. You know what I mean? And that's like the bingo card, is watching all these people being able to now jump into this TV spectrum, and whether it's Maisel or Schmigadoon or whatever, it's awesome.
Look at the reverse. Now people who are giant fans of Riverdale can come see yours truly, Casey Cott, Sing beautifully,
Oh,
effortlessly, floating that tenor voice across the stage 8 times a week. And so I came and saw the show a few days ago. I was there Tuesday night and was so impressed. And I'm saying this because you exceeded my wildest expectations. Because when you hear of like, oh, a TV star, it's another stunt casting, blah blah blah. But you freaking held it, man. Like you led that show and you can sing like nobody's business. You do not expect someone who you've never heard to sing before, heard sing before, to be able to sing like that.
thanks, man.
And it was absolutely incredible. So I want to actually know how Moulin Rouge even found its way into your lap. Was that an audition, or did they come to you and ask you, or what?
It's kind of a long story. So Bill Damashki, who's one of our lead producers, and I did a reading when I was fresh out of college. I booked Riverdale, and then the one theater thing I booked was this infamous reading of The Prince of Egypt with Stephen Schwartz, and Scott Schwartz
Yeah.
directed it, and Bill produced it. And since then, Bill and I have some mutual friends. So we've been friends for years now. Along with that, a lot of the team I had met through various things. And the first conversation, my agents repped a couple people that have been to the show. My first conversation with them was a long time ago. I forget exactly if it was like they were putting the tour together, or Aaron was leaving or something. I don't know. I think it was the tour, but I was filming Riverdale, and they wanted to see if it would be if I could come in, but it just wasn't good timing. But I said, hey, I really like this show, and I really, in the future, let's see what could happen. We, at the last couple episodes of Riverdale, or no, this would have been like March, a while ago. That conversation came back up. It just seems like perfect timing. This was before the strike and everything as well. But we knew we were pregnant, and we knew we didn't know what was coming next. But I've been dying to get on stage, and for a lot of reasons. And when this opportunity came up, it was like, there's no way I could. It's everything you wanted as a kid. And now that I'm doing it, it is crazy. It is so much. It's everything I wanted and a million times different and weirder and more fun and harder. But the team is awesome. There's just such a great group of people. The cast is freaking awesome. It's such a spectacle, and it's definitely different than showing up to set, for sure. And the singing thing is hard, man. Singing is so hard. But you just gotta get up there and poor Courtney, my co-star Courtney Reed, she deals with me every day being like, I don't think I could do this.
Do you really still doubt yourself? Even after doing it this long, you're like, I don't know if I can keep doing this?
You know what? I do. I'd be lying if I've done it over 100 times. And this week, I think this is one thing that I don't know if I haven't listened to, or I don't know if people talk about it, but you can go through it mentally, man, because right now there's a couple, I'm tired this week because the baby, I think. And this week mentally has been tough. And so, I am the kind of actor who gets in my head and then messes up on myself, but I've never had more fun, and I've never been more humbled by the people around me and by the show. I don't know, I could go on forever, but I do get very nervous some nights. Last night I had a really nervous night. I don't know why. My dad was there.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, oh, Dad. It's like it's compounding, though, because I've talked with people, too, and I reference this a lot because it's one of the most extreme cases, but like I dove into, when I interviewed Patty Murin when she was doing Anna and Frozen, she very famously has written an article that I brought up about having panic attacks while on stage, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not uncommon. It's uncommon to talk about, because I think you're afraid you're presenting yourself to I guess, hurt your chances of future work because you want to appear as rock solid. But I feel like the cool thing now is to talk about your own mental health a little bit more.
I'd like to just like think of each day to be like, when I'm like super anxious, I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, why am I? And most of the time it's just because I'm thinking about myself, like way too much, because that's what actors do. I'm like, why am I obsessed with the way that I sound? Like, why don't I just chill out and try to tell the story? But I also just think your first time doing 8 shows a week, is a huge learning curve. And that is why I've been so lucky to have the team at Moulin Rouge, because they're just pros, and I can lean on them and trust them, and the cast is the same way, and also you start to learn that, some days are harder than others, and that's okay. Some days are going to be weird. Some days I wake up and like there's just something like off in there, and you have to figure out what it is, but that's normal. Because the first couple of times you're like, is this normal? And then you're like, yeah, everything's normal. Like it's just the way your bodies work.
So when you go to Courtney and you're like, I don't know if I can do this today, what does she say to you?
Recently, she's been so sick of it, I think, that she's just like, no, she just always says, you're good.
It's like, shut up.
Yes,
shut up.
I think we're into that phase where, but she's just always like, she's done it for so long. She's like, you can do it. She was like, every day you're not going to go home and think, man, I sang like that was it. She was like, that's not how it always works. Some days you just think, how am I going to get through this? And some days you're flying through it, and some days it's like your body gets sick. Okay, everything affects your body too. Like and doing TV, I wasn't as aware, but like the season changes, and you're in an old building in New York, and all those things affect you. But the more I think about my scene partners and telling the story and not trying to sound like something, the more successful I think you are as an actor. But it's hard. It's interesting. Very hard some days. And also, I just think most of the time people just need a nap.
Probably. I take naps frequently because I can.
Yeah.
Because I'm an adult and I can.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Especially with the newborn, like cuddle up, put the little newborn in your armpit.
Oh, yeah.
And then you nap when they nap.
Sometimes
got to do it.
Post-show, he's just like here. I'm like, oh, this is the freaking best, man. He's such a cool dude.
And they smell so good until they start eating solid food. Newborn baby smells the best. Then they start eating solid food, and the poop smells like poop from that point on, and the whole thing's downhill.
It's not so bad right now.
No, it's so good. Enjoy it. Smell that baby while you can.
I will.
Before it gets bad. So what's one of the things that you found actually easier about being Christian than you thought it would be?
That's a great question. I think the vocals is the most hard part. I think just the building is awesome. Like every day you get to work, everyone's awesome. And that part makes everything so much easier. Like everyone's encouraging. In those moments where I am having more tough show, everyone's awesome. You never know when you go to work in any industry what your coworkers are going to be like. And I've found that this group of people is very special, and help you realize there's a lot more to life than this moment of the show that we're in. If something goes wrong, like it's okay, you just keep going. Most of the time the audience doesn't know. I'm struggling to find something that's easy.
Broadway's hard, people.
Yeah, but it's I wouldn't necessarily say things are easier than I thought, but I think that they're better. They're more fun. It's a lot less like scary, like, and more like, dude, let's work. Let's create something. Let's do this. Let's get there. Let's figure this out. And so I just really like the people. I think any job you're in, it's just all about who you're working with. And if you're working with good people, you're going to have a good time, and you're probably going to make something kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, you're at the top of your game. I've said this so many times on this podcast that Broadway is the Olympics of theater. It's the best of the best. And you're there just doing what you do naturally well, and you're doing it with other people who are also naturally amazing at it. And so the stakes are higher, but the results are that much higher. And everyone's at the top of their game. And when I think, like you said, when you're in a cast and an environment that feels supportive, that it's okay. Like you get the experience. Experience will teach you that it's okay to mess up, because that makes some of the best moments on stage, especially when the rest of the show, the cast can carry you and help you recover easily, or even make something fun out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just have fun. Also, this is something that I've been working on, is like, how do I make this, instead of trying to prove to myself that I deserve to be here, what if I try to focus on the things I'm good at and make these things easier? Why am I always trying to like trying to do something that like is 50-50 whether I'm going to hit it or not, because I want to prove to myself I can do it, instead of being like, oh, I can do that really well. I should do that. And I think when you're with a group of people that is encouraging, and they encourage you to do that other thing that you're more comfortable with, that's awesome too. It's just better for everyone.
Hang on, everybody. We're just going to take a quick break. All right, now we're back.
Have you developed any routines or anything, like the last thing you do before you go out on stage every night? You have to like touch the proscenium with 3 fingers or something?
So I like to get there super early because I'm a nut case. And actually, I was watching the interview with the Merrily cast about how Daniel and Lindsay and Jonathan all show up at different times. So in that interview, I'm very much in tune with Daniel. We're like, I'm there early, like doing all these trying to warm up my body and voice and stuff. But when that happens, I'm usually done and dressed like 40 minutes before the show. And Courtney and I have dressing rooms kind of like right on top of each other. So I usually just go hang out with her for like the last 30 minutes. And we have a lot of good times just like chilling before the show. And everyone kind of pops in and out when we're hanging out there. And I do have a Ted Lasso Believe sign on my wall. Sometimes I give that a little slap on the nights where I'm nervous or whatever. And then, the show starts off in a really cool way. I know you've seen it, but if anyone hasn't seen it, I kind of walk out and I don't say anything, I don't sing anything, and then I just raise the sign and we start. And it's so cool because I get to like feel the audience and be on stage for a second and take a deep breath before I have to do any of the things that scare me, and be like, oh, we're good. We're good. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. These people are here to have a good time, and we're going to show them the best time we possibly can. And that's fun too, So I guess that's kind of the part of routine. And then right after that, I'm down with Andre and Gabe before we kind of run out, and we just kind of laugh and make jokes and check in. And we actually have a little weird thing that we all do before we run out there. There's like this little, like, this is so weird, but there's like this little stuffed animal in the at the sound booth that everyone kind of taps. But I have this lamp I go to, and we all joke it's like my energy source, and we like slap this lamp. I don't know. We do a bunch of weird stuff. We're a bunch of weirdos. That's another thing you realize when you're doing Broadway, is like we're all a group of weirdos that we were when we were 10, like running around on stage. That's literally what we're doing. So yeah, I guess I slapped the lamp. So stupid.
That's now the title of this episode.
Slap the lamp.
Slapping the lamp.
Well, when I don't do
All
it,
right.
Andre goes, "Ghost, you didn't slap the lamp," and then I like run over and like.
Well, it's like maybe it was more for him. If you don't slap the lamp, then he doesn't have.
Then he doesn't get his energy source. Yeah.
Right. Cool. So then I'm gonna ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
And ask everyone to wrap up the episodes. Just the very first one is simply what motivates you.
Oh man, I think my little guy for sure. Like everything kind of changes. And my wife. When the shows that are most successful is when I'm thinking about them and like doing this for them and not for me. So yeah, those 2.
What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
Oh man, that's great. Just to love on yourself and give yourself a lot of grace, because what we do in this field is built on failing and not being perfect, and you're just never going to be perfect. So I'm still telling myself, like, just enjoy it. Don't enjoy not being perfect, because you're just not ever going to be perfect. And that's okay.
Enjoy not being perfect. That is great. Okay. Now, last question, hardest one. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
I've liked some random musicals, man. I'm like weird. My favorite musical ever is Assassins, but there's not like a production of that. So
you can
like,
say that. If it was mysteriously recorded and you're stuck on a desert island, you've got to record it in Assassins.
But also like maybe like Wicked. Like, have you ever gone to Wicked and been like, I didn't, have a good semi-good time watching that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. You always enjoy it. It still holds up.
Yeah. Oh, Bandstand.
There you go.
Bandstand. OBC. I guess there was only one. cast, but Bandstand. That I saw. I
a good
love
show.
that show. I love that
It was
show.
great.
Yeah.
It's absolutely great. All right. Where can we find you on the social media?
Just Casey Cott. Just Instagram. Hanging out on the gram.
IG. You haven't done threads or TikToks yet?
I have a TikTok, but I've never made one. And so I need to learn how to do that. I don't know how to do it.
I just post things and hope I did it right.
I'm gonna learn at the theater. They're gonna teach me.
All the kids are going to
The
teach you.
kids are gonna teach me.
Old age of 31. You gotta learn.
Dude, I had some friends from high school at the show last night, and I was like, "Are we feeling old yet? Like, I have a kid. Is this weird?" But comes in hot. Got to learn how to do the TikTok.
That's right. I love Upload. Do you watch Upload on
Love
Hulu?
Upload.
I like how everything's like, what do you have a degree from TikTok University?
Yeah.
Because that in the future, everything is, majorly commercialized. I love
Oh
that.
yeah, I love
Our social
Upload.
media took over. Yeah, it's great. Cool. You can find more of me at thetheaterpodcast.com. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Facebook. Leave a rating and a review wherever you're listening now. Our music came from Jukebox the Ghost, and our combo came from Casey Cott. Casey, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.